The agenda of first, we will start by presenting the HUBCAP project, and this presentation will be held by my colleague 𝗛𝗨𝗟𝗟 from Aarhus University. The second presentation will be referring to the call 1.2 pool, and it will be held by me, 𝗣𝗨𝗟𝗟𝗟 from 𝗣𝗨𝗟𝗟𝗟. The third presentation, tips and lessons learned from Open Call 1.0 pool, will be held by Ken Pierce from Newcastle. And in the end, we will have the slot for Q&A. So now we can start the first presentation, and I will pass the word to Hugo.
So I'm Hugo. I'm based at Aarhus University. I'm a researcher here, and I'm here to provide a light overview about what we mean about certain concepts in HUBCAP and introduce you to the project itself. So first things first, introduce our consortium. So we are 17 partners, and Aarhus University, where I'm based in, is the coordinator. And then there are like kind of other universities and research institutes that came together as registered EU innovation hubs. So you will hear about, or when you think about digital innovation hubs in the HUBCAP project, we're thinking about Newcastle University, Fortis in Munich, Fondazione Bruno Kessler in Italy, Virtual Vehicle in Austria, Politecnico di Milano in Italy again, University 𝗛𝗨𝗟𝗟𝗟 in Romania, and KTH in Sweden. So these are our digital innovation hubs. And 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 is a partner that brings all the know-how and like kind of experience about managing the open calls that this webinar is about, or one of the open calls this webinar is about. And then there's a set of SMEs that are in the project as the initial population or the initial testers of the platform and sandbox concept that was developed or is being developed by HUBCAP. And well, a large or an engineering company that is developing the platform itself. And here we are, all the partners, and in a map, like kind of this is the different coloring that we currently have, and basically we are co-financed by this innovation action involved in the Smart Anything Everywhere initiative and network. So one of the projects there. So we at Aarhus University coordinate this project. The project started in January 2020 with a kickoff here, and it will last until December 2022, according to the plan. And we have more or less 8 million euro of total contribution by the European Commission. And our goal is to provide this one-stop shop for European SMEs that want to join the cyber-physical systems revolution using model-based design techniques, terms that I'll try to make more precise in the next slide. But basically, the motivation is that SMEs face barriers when they want to develop their projects further, especially in terms of digitalization. And we want to be part of a solution that allows to lower those barriers. So what is a cyber-physical system? Basically, the abstract definition is whenever you have a physical process or a real-world process that is being affected or where there's computation involved in this process, you have a cyber-physical system. So you can think about your electronic scooter, airplane actuators, but you can also think about like door openers. Well, it's a vast plethora of systems that fit in the concept of a cyber physical system. But what is known, or in the right-hand side of the slide, we have a proposal that was made by Lee et al. In 2015 about guidelines or unified guidelines to implement these kind of systems. And so there's different levels of smartness these systems may have. And while the first levels are probably easy to an SME to achieve, so from a physical asset that you have connected to some kind of service where you can extract some data from your devices is probably easy. But what is known is that the more you go into the higher levels where you need your product to be smart, where you need to have your product adapting to situations, you probably need to start thinking about using models and model-based design techniques. So what do we mean by model design techniques? What do we mean by models and tools? They are mainly the focus point of these open calls. So or at least open call 1 types are intend to like kind of motivate adoption of assets by the platform or SMEs that want to provide such kind of assets. So in model-based design, again, just to set a bit of common ground, in model-based design, you always have these two entities, right? So the system world, so the physical reality we live in, and the model world, the virtual part of it. So in the left-hand side, as an example, a concrete example of what would be a system. So we have this wastewater treatment plant. So you probably saw one of those. But basically, like kind of all the wastewater that goes out of houses, industry, wherever, gets collected in some points. And at this point, this water has to flow through tanks and be treated before it's released into nature again. And in such a process, there will be valves and like kind of that kind of are well, in the smart ones are obviously like kind of there's a computational process that opens and closes these valves and makes this water flow. Then from the real world, if you deploy such valves or this kind of systems, or if you sell this kind of systems as a company, eventually you have developed them using models, right? So what do we mean by models? Well, they could be syntactical descriptions of how these valves will open and close, or when it will open and close and make the water flow from one tank to the other. It could be a 3D animation about the flow of liquid in the system. Well, there's standard techniques like block diagrams, mathematical equations, well, so there's a lot of models. So CAD drawings, wherever you may think of. If you think that you have a model, just ask, and you're not sure if it fits, just ask us. But basically, the models that we're interested in are the ones that are associated with some tool or that are executable. So we want models that are beyond just some non-dynamic, non-executable, something that you cannot interact with. It's a model. So for instance, a model of the building in typical architecture sense, where's a drawing in the paper or I don't know, a small model at scale of the building. This kind of model is not really interesting for us because obviously it will not fit our platform. But basically, without further ado, so what is the incentive to join our platform and our HUBCAP project? Well, from the contribution, we have reserved 3.2 million to projects. And today Katerina will describe better what is a Call 1 type project. And it's basically like kind of as an individual SME, if you provide an asset that you think that it will fit this concept of the HUBCAP platform, you will have an incentive and support to deploy such assets. And then at a higher level of demand from the SMEs, there's call to types of projects. So here we expect to have at least 2 SMEs. And the idea is to promote that one of the SMEs should provide some expertise or should like kind of be providing something for an SME that has a product and wants to make it more digital or make an evolution of their current asset. And then like kind of we have the experiment on steroids approach. So the innovate kind of call is again such kind of project, but like kind of with the bigger emphasis on developing some innovative idea, something that like kind of will provide impact. So basically, in well, if you apply for an open call, basically you're enrolling in this network of digital innovation hubs, basically like kind of a network of partners trying to establish this ecosystem where you can indeed start populating a platform and developing your products or making your products smarter. So basically, the main idea is to try to route knowledge from one local area of a digital innovation hub to the other, or to facilitate testing of ideas and wherever training or development that may be needed. And so HUBCAP platform, so what does it mean for you, right, as an SME? So basically, it's just a platform that you access via a web browser. And you will have access to these 2 catalogs, one for models and one for tools. And basically, like kind of you'll have the description of the tool provider, like who can you contact if you need more details about this tool, and who developed this model, like kind of what are the tools that are involved, and who should you contact with if you want to extend such a model. And so basically this web portal where you will be a user and you will have access to a marketplace where you can fill a cart with products and experiment them in a sandbox. That's the added value of HUBCAP, basically having an environment where everything is ready for your potential customers or the potential people that will use your asset to use without having to do any other further installation. So they can just push button and access your asset ready to use. So basically, the sandbox itself, it's something that you interact with remotely. So again, you just have a web portal, you push a button, start new sandbox on your cart of selected assets, and eventually you will see through your web page, you will be given access to a remote desktop of the tool. So if you use a tool in a desktop version, so you can imagine that this would not be much different from having it running in your local machine. So there's an YouTube video about the collaboration features of this sandbox. So basically you can invite guests and you both can interact with the model at different, from different computers or at your different locations. And basically, if you need to think now, okay, I need to decide if my asset fits there or in this kind of platform or not. Well, basically you can think about the HUBCAP sandbox or the asset hosting capability as a private cloud provider. So whatever you would find in a cloud provider, we can provide as well, given the resources. And basically, the current concept is in the prototype and what was tested by the initial SMEs is a group of virtual operating systems with the tools installed on top of it and the models already provided in it. And you can have a group of these as a sandbox, and they can communicate using a VLAN. But definitely, if your asset needs some extra feature, there's always the possibility to expand the concept a bit further. But if you have any questions regarding how what does it mean to fit your asset in the platform, just ask, and we will try to answer. So, what do we mean by integrating an asset or your asset in the sandbox? So basically, we had a nice animation provided by NIT in the PowerPoint, but I'm using a PDF version. So basically, we have this timeline, and engineering will shepherd you through the process. So basically, it starts at 6 o'clock in this fixed visualization. So you will be asked about your company details, about the asset details. You will be a provider, a user login to the platform. With this user login, you can yourself kind of install tools in it, and you can try to kind of deploy your asset by yourself or following our instructions. But obviously, kind of at some later stage, you can either have kind of help by us, or if whatever comes out of the deployment, kind of operationally, we will be in contact and be of help in case something is needed. And yeah, in short, so HUBCAP, this project offers a network of digital innovation hubs. So creating an ecosystem for SMEs to leverage on digitalization and transition into a more digital setup, specifically if the means to achieve that is through model-based design. There's open calls. So Katerina will talk about the open call 1 that is open. And we expect to have you in our collaboration platform soon. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for coming to the seminar.
Thank you. So now I'm briefly presenting the HUBCAP Open Call 1.2 pool. Here we will see the timeline of the call. How can you participate? The funding scheme, some certain aspects about the application form. How will the evaluation process occur, and which will be the evaluation criteria? So the timeline. As you know, HUBCAP is currently accepting applications for its Call 1.2 pool. The deadline is 13 November 2020, 7 p.m. Brussels time. The evaluation and selection process will start 1st December, and it will last 1 month, more or less, depending on the number of applications received. And all participants will be contacted after the evaluation and the selection is concluded, either if they are selected or rejected. After the selection and the communication to the SMEs, the beneficiaries' SMEs will participate in the training workshop that will be held in January. And here the SMEs will receive information about what is expected for them and how can they integrate their assets within the HUBCAP platform. The date, it will be a one-day webinar, or in this case workshop, apologies, and we are still defining a date and the time, but all selected SMEs will be informed. And after the training workshop, so the selected or beneficiaries, SMEs, will be able to integrate their assets in the HUBCAP platform. The funding scheme. So HUBCAP, under the call pool, will fund individual SMEs with the model-based design tools for cyber-physical systems. And these products and services will be integrated in the HUBCAP collaborative platform. The selected products and services will enlarge and enrich the pool of technology and tools offers of HUBCAP. The beneficiaries from the current call 1.2 pool can subsequently also be funded by collaborating with other SMEs and together apply to HUBCAP future call experiments. Under the call pool, individual SMEs will receive a total fund of 1,000 euros to introduce their technologies and of course to participate in the training workshop. So how can you participate, or how to participate in the call pool, the open call pool? First, we strongly recommend not to wait until the last minute to submit your proposal. The time to receive the application as recorded by the submission system will be definitive, and no system or network failures will be accepted as excuse. Of course, English is the official language, and the submissions done in other languages will not be evaluated or considered eligible for evaluation. So potential candidates, applicants, must go to the F6S platform, register, or create a profile, and then go to the specific page under the F6S platform under HUBCAP call 1.2 pool and submit their applications by filling up an online application form. Submissions received by any other channel will not be considered eligible. Each applicant can only submit one application per call. So if we have several proposals or applications submitted by one SME, we will only consider the last one received, and the others will be automatically excluded. Applicants that have previously participated in call 1.1 can resubmit their proposals. But it's strongly recommended that the resubmission clearly explain the improvements that have been made to the application, or in this case, to the asset application. Of course, taking into consideration the comments provided by the evaluators. And here they have their evaluation summary report where they can look into this information. We advise you to be concrete and concise. Questions have character limitations. So please truly examine all the open call documents. Here you can, here you have the Annex 2, the guidelines for applicants, where you can find all the information. And if you need more information, you can always go to HUBCAP project website, and here you have the link. For UK companies, UK is a European associated country, so UK applicants are considered eligible. The application form. So the process and evaluate of the application form. HUBCAP is GDPR compliant, so we will request minimum information needed to deliver the evaluation procedure. And the summary of the proposals / applications and the participants' information will be shared with the Commission. In the application form, it is mandatory to upload the declaration of honor, filled, signed, and stamped, if applicable, and the Annex 5, so the SME declaration, both in PDF format. If the applicants don't submit these two annexes, they will not be considered eligible. So once again, please go through all the questions on both annexes and make sure you have filled in all the required information. And here we mean signatures. So please check if you have signed all the places for your signature, check boxes, tables, etc. Please remember that other means of communication, for example, an email, are not accepted. And finally, applications must have a clear European dimension. So in here, it will facilitate HUBCAP-based innovation and of course contribute towards the European Union digitalization, targeting always a clear economical and societal impact. How is the evaluation process? After the submission of the application, the evaluation process will be undertaken after the deadline for applying to call 1.2 is concluded. In here, by doing this, we will allow a fair process. An automatic filtering to discard non-eligible asset applications will be applied. We are referring to eligibility check. Assets applications that will be marked as non-eligible will get a rejection letter that will include the reasons for being catalogued as non-eligible. The evaluation under call pool will be an internal evaluation, and it's represented by the HUBCAP Quality Assessment Board, which in turn is composed by selected people within the HUBCAP Digital Innovation Hub's partners. We will have at least 2 internal evaluators per application. So at least 2 internal evaluations will evaluate each application. In the end, we will select up to 40 assets applications. The selection of the individual SMEs asset application will be a simple process based on the evaluation reports received from the internal evaluators. The internal evaluators will, of course, follow specific evaluation guidelines and templates, as well as they will be asked to sign a non-conflict of interest declaration. In the end, after the selection is concluded, all asset applications will receive an email, either if they are accepted or rejected. And of course, along with these emails, they will also receive anonymized version of their asset application evaluation summary report. Considering the evaluation criteria, so for the eligibility check, we will see if the applicant is a legal entity eligible for the European Commission funding under the rules of H 2020. We will also see and check if the applicant is an SME complying with the European Commission recommendation. Specifically for call 1 pool, the SME should be a technology provider of model-based design tools for cyber-physical systems. We will check if the SME does not have multiple assets applications under the call 1.2 pool. And we will check if the applicant has correctly filled the Annex 4 and 5 and has submitted both annexes within their application. For the internal evaluation, the evaluators will be evaluating your applications or asset application based in 3 criteria. So the first criterion is concept fit, and here the evaluators will evaluate the business fit to HUBCAP scope and its relevance to the cyber-physical systems domains. The second criterion is technology, and here the evaluators will take into consideration the innovation of the concept, the asset specification, and the technical capacity. And here, please pay attention or have in mind that the minimal TRL that we are accepting is 5. And of course, there is no limitation, so it can be minimum 5 and up to 9. And we will also evaluate your technology EPR. Finally, the third criterion will be the future use of the asset technology. And here, what will be evaluated are the benefits of the technology for the end users and their exploitation potential. So what happens after the evaluation process? So after the evaluation process, all selected SMEs, in this case we will start name them as beneficiaries SMEs, will participate in the training workshop. And this participation is mandatory. So all selected SMEs need or are obliged to participate in the workshop. In case if there's an SME that are unable to participate, it will be considered or discarded. So please keep this in mind. The workshop has a duration of 1 day only, and its goal is to clarify how the process of the asset integration will occur and to provide information about what is expected from each beneficiary SME after the respective asset integration is completed. So the workshop, as I said before, will be held in January, and in principle, it has to be held remotely due to the COVID-19 current situation. And the final time, its day and time still needs to be defined, but more detailed information concerning the workshop organization will be shared among the beneficiaries SMEs upfront. So once the workshop is finalized, the asset provider has the obligation to insert the asset within the HUBCAP platform. It will receive support from the HUBCAP consortium to do so, of course. So, as my colleague Hugo explained before in his presentation, there's a lot of steps to integrate your asset within the HUBCAP platform, but of course you will be supported on this. After the asset integration in the HUBCAP platform, so the asset provider will be able to sell their products and services in the platform, and of course it will have the opportunity to be selected by an end user SME that wants to create a consortium and start an experiment pilot and apply, of course, to the future open calls of the HUBCAP program, which are call 2 experiments and later call 3 innovate. So this is it from my side. We will now have the presentation concerning tips and lessons learned from the HUBCAP Open Call 1.1 pool. And here I will pass the word to my colleague Ken. Thank you.
Great, yes, so thank you to Katerina and Hugo. They did a lot of the explaining today, so that's really useful. So I'm not going to explain too much new, but I'll highlight some of the things that are particularly important when making an application. So yeah, my name is Ken Pearce. I'm a lecturer here at Newcastle University. It's not actually the sunny behind me. This photo is from August. So we are one of the digital innovation hubs, as Hugo mentioned towards the beginning. And as such, I was one of the people involved in evaluating the call 1.1 round. So I've seen some applications, I've seen some that were accepted and some that were rejected. So I've just got a few tips and tricks to bear in mind when you're making an application. So the main thing is to read the guidelines carefully. So we spent quite some time making sure that these are explaining everything you need. So all the relevant information about scope and objectives is there, and guidelines for successful application, some of which I will highlight shortly. The other thing to bear in mind is data protection and confidentiality. So because we are have a contract with the Commission to deliver HUBCAP and cascade the funding down to SMEs such as yourself, It means that in order to do that and be part of that, you need to also comply with the confidentiality and no conflict of interest clauses regarding applications received in the scope of the program. As with any of these, if you're not sure, you can get in touch and we can help explain things as well. Now, onto the more technical side of things. The goal of the platform is really to get a collection of assets on that people can use in calls 2 and 3, these slightly larger experiments. So it's important that whatever we do, we have some sort of basic level of functionality that we expect, so that the HUBCAP platform is not promoting things that, although maybe interesting and exciting, aren't at the stage where they're really usable. So as evaluators, as Katerina mentioned a few slides ago, we have these 3 criteria. One of them is technology readiness level. And this is a standard definition used in the European Union. So we're looking for things TRL 5 to 9. So TRL 9 is sort of software or tools or models that have been used widely, are very mature. TRL 5 is kind of that mid-range, since they range from 1 to 5. So we'd expect an asset that's usable by another company. So the application form has a clear box where you have to give this number, but it's good to bear in mind when you're also describing your technology to make sure that you kind of explain the level of the TRL. The other 2 criteria are around the sort of concept and fit, and also the asset itself. So the 2 key things as an evaluator I found last time were some of the applications, it wasn't quite obvious how the asset that was being described related to model-based design. So as Hugo mentioned right at the beginning, did some excellent explanations on what we mean by model-based design. So we had some applications that were really great products that would be very useful to someone, but that weren't in this model-based design for cyber-physical systems remit. So some of those were out of scope, so it's good to think about that ahead of time. Speak to us if you're not sure, we can help explain what that means. There's some links at the end with FAQs where we try and explain these things again. And as Katerina said, this webinar and the slides will be available to help you. So one of the main things here, there were also some that we thought, oh, that's probably in scope, but we were guessing a little bit, or the information wasn't really included. So when you're writing, especially the free text, the longer bits of the application, think about us as evaluators in mind and make sure it's obvious how your asset fits into the scope of HUBCAP. And just make our job easier, because then it's much easier to accept you into the program. The other main reason that we rejected things, often with feedback saying, please apply again, but provide more information, was about the concrete definition of the asset. So we had some SMEs who were clearly doing model-based design from the general description, but then in describing the actual asset itself, it wasn't quite clear what would be added to the platform. So just to reiterate something that Hugo was talking about, he had some nice diagrams and examples. We primarily think about 2 kinds of assets you can incorporate into the platform. So the first one would be a tool asset. So a tool we're thinking of as some kind of software that allows you to build, create, or analyze some sort of computer model of a cyber-physical system. So some classic well-known tools would be something like MATLAB Simulink, which gives you block diagrams and equations that allow you to describe both physical and cyber systems. A similar one is the Medelica language, which also one of our partners in Sweden, RISE, looks after that as part of the Medelica Foundation. So this is a language that's realized in a number of tools, so Daimler, things like this, big well-known tools. or it could even be assets like Enterprise Architect, which is the UML, Universal Modeling Language kind of tool that allows you to draw diagrams, and these are also considered models. So this is the kind of thing we would think of as a tool, and that's something you could, when you're integrating, actually get the virtual machine running, as Hugo mentioned, and allow people to run that software without downloading it. And that's what integration to the platform means. The other one would be model assets. And here is more like specific actual models of, or sort of abstract models of components or systems that could be analyzed. So you might imagine that if you worked in the building domain, you might have models of, I know some partners, for example, from previous projects have quite a lot of models from their library that they built up over the years that include models of, let's say, HVAC, so ventilation and air conditioning. They can use these models to customize for each new client what kind of thing will go into the physical space. And these kind of models might be something that your company works with and you're able to put online as part of the platform. Generally, a model might need a tool to do that. So you might have a model that is a bunch of M scripts that need MATLAB. Some models can be compiled. If you're using something like the functional mockup interface, you can wrap these models in a kind of executable that can be used by someone else. So there's various ways to do that. So integration here is more like a listing. So it's more like a listing in a catalog saying, this model is available, here's the requirements, here's what it can do. And again, my main point here is this needs to be clear to us as evaluators what's actually going to come across, because when we're going through our criteria, it's much easier just to tick off saying, yes, this is a model-based design tool for X. It's clear that it's a piece of software with a TRL level of 5 or above, and we can definitely see that being integrated. Finally, just a few more things to reiterate on what you'll need to do is if you're successful. So there's a training workshop, mandatory training workshop, where we'll explain more about the platform and how to integrate things. As Hugo mentioned, there'll be a couple of forms to fill in just to gather some information. And there'll be a little bit of follow-up so we can help see how HUBCAP's working and make reports to the public and reports to the Commission about success stories, how things are going, and how well people benefit from HUBCAP as a program and European funding more widely. And then Hugo went through this in quite a detailed way, so I don't want to spend long on it, but after the workshop, you'll be taught how to do the integration. If needs be, there's a chance for getting some one-to-one help. And that's the main obligation of Call 1, is to get your asset into the platform after the workshop. And then the real benefit to you would be that the asset then gets listed on the website, gets listed on the platform, and this will be selectable for customers, or new customers or users in Call 2 and Call 3 to come along and say, this is a really interesting thing, I want to work with that. So one of the main aims for you would be to try and expand your customer base, reach into maybe a new domain with less risk because you've got some funding to do that, and just possibly reach out to people who you wouldn't have met previously. And that's really what we'd like to build up through HUBCAP, and that's what the funding allows us to do, is to try and build up towards this sort of critical mass where we've got an ecosystem and some infrastructure there that means this is going to be sustainable in the future. So finally from me, in terms of talking to you, various links, as I said, and as Katarina said, this will be available afterwards, so you can click the links directly from the slides. But the platform, F6S platform where you apply, is linked at the top there. There's a Q&A with F6S. The application form and guidelines can be found there. There's an FAQ which we're expanding at the HUBCAP website, and we do have a newsletter signing up. If you go to the website, every footer has in the bottom right a way for you to sign up and receive our newsletter to hear about things in the future.
Thank you so much. So I hope you enjoyed the 3 presentations. I will now, start the Q&A section. So please, all the HUBCAP partners will be answering your questions. So now you just need to raise your hands, and I will be able to pose your questions, and each of my colleagues will answer. So Miro, you can unmute yourself and pose the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me properly? Okay, excellent. So first, I would like to thank you for the great explanations and the detailed presentation. Secondly, I would like to ask the specific question basically towards the model. So I suppose it will be more towards the Ken, I think, and Hugo. So basically, you are talking about the model, but our robot is actually, I mean, it can be modeled as the asset, but the guiding of the robot or interaction of with the robot is being done by gestures and by camera input. So I don't really see in your ecosystem how I could embed these kind of things. Because we are actually aiming to create the intuitive robot, which is context aware and which is interacting with its environment. So it is not really the industrial type of the robot where you can just say, okay, fine, pick and place or do something. You know, so could you maybe describe me a little bit, or maybe we can take it outside of this call, but I would just like to know more.
Sure, I'll probably take this one. Oh, are you there, Hugo?
Yeah, do you want to go ahead, or
do you want to try?
Well, I can say at least that well, if you have a robot that you interact through with gestures, right? What I would see interesting for some other SMEs, right, and what you could provide as well in terms of models and something that you deploy on a platform is whatever simulators you have, and whatever definitely the robot itself has some associated models, right?
Yes. Basically, we do have a model because the robot itself is actually driven by AI. So we have actually a rather complex vision system which is processing the camera input. We have a 3D camera on the robot, which is taking basically the depth of the environment and also the persons, which is building the pose detection of the people. And then basically trying to make sense from the environment and act on that environment. So yes, we do have some models, but they are definitely not in the software that you mentioned. So it is not in MATLAB and it is not in Modelica and so on. So do you expect us to deliver it like sort of like VM or something with a proprietary software on it, or how do you imagine it?
Ken, do you want to give a go on
the main thing to say from me, they were just examples because we had some questions previously about what is a model, what is a tool. So there's certainly no requirement. That wasn't anywhere near an exhaustive list.
Okay.
I think,
yeah,
Hugo,
so
we can pretty much run anything in the VMs, right?
Yeah. Yep. So if you have something that you would expect some SME to think, maybe I can reuse, or maybe I can run it locally and do some training with some other data sets. Well, yeah, I would say it would be fitting the platform. So
okay,
the question here is definitely finding something that is feasible, right, and deployable, right? So,
yeah.
Yeah. So the application again should focus on what thing you might put in the platform that essentially has the robot as like a link, or that's the real asset that's being modeled.
Because basically in your evaluation we've got like very high concept fit, yeah, but we've got actually the remarks that we need to bring more information, and that we actually have to apply for the 1.2 with much more information and some real example how our model will work. Yeah. So of course for me no problem, but in order to be able to describe that, I need to know more from what are the limitations here, for example, because if the user doesn't have, I mean, it depends which kind of format of the data set they have, yeah, so, and how, in which way they will provide it to the model of the robot, yeah? Because if they, our robot has the specific camera system, which is having basically the infrared camera, the stereoscopic camera, and the normal RGB camera, and it is combining these three inputs. So if the user doesn't have the same capabilities, it's quite, I mean, the model is going to be quite useless to them. So my questions are, how do we deal with these kind of limitations? And
I think in terms of call 1.x, so 2, 3, etc. These are really the first step of just getting some listing online that people can interact with. We can imagine if someone was interested in using your asset in an experiment call, so maybe so the next one up in terms of getting two SMEs together and using a platform asset.
Yeah.
Step one might be buy cameras and get the right data.
Yeah.
And then there's more funding for that, and there's more time to actually get those things.
Well, basically, in that case, we can just deliver them the real robot because we already have two prototypes. We are just working. Basically, we are looking for the ways how to fund further our research with AI and the actually awareness of the context awareness of the robot. And I think the HUBCAP is really nice platform to participate in. So that's why I would like to actually see how I can better fit your needs in order to participate.
Yeah, so one of the headlines of actually that we responded to in setting up HUBCAP and part of the remit is try before you buy. So that might help. Either try before you buy in terms of a new tool to do, or an asset as something you could actually get hold of eventually. So if there was something in the platform where a user could find out through a model, like running a simulation, what are the capabilities of your robot, then I think that would be a nice asset to have.
Yeah, that we have. I mean, we can provide the demo where the user can actually like interact using the normal webcam, and then he sees what the model actually does of the robot. So that kind of thing we can provide as the VM, and it requires just the normal webcam input. Yes, so that's it.
Great. So at least from your description, that sounds like a good way to respond to the feedback, is to be more specific about what would go on the platform.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was getting at in the last couple of slides.
Okay, thank you very much.
Also, if I may comment, this is Stefano Tonetta. Okay. So I think it would be also quite interesting if it's possible to share also models developed during the design time, during the design of the robot itself. So Ugo was mentioning simulation models or other models that have been developed and that may be reused in other contexts. So not only the runtime robot that is interacting with the user, but models that are more focused on the design of the robot. And the simulation tools used by you to develop such a robot may be different from those listed. So this may be an activity part of the integration to make this available in some virtual machine integrated in the platform itself.
Okay, but of course, I mean, if we release this kind of more sensitive data about the inner workings of the robot and so on, how the NDA is handled and how the intellectual property is being protected, because obviously, if we go really into the details and we show the development of the robot with videos, for example, how we've been testing the stuff and how the engineers has been designing it. Then I will be also revealing the sensitive information. So is there some guarantees of the protection, or how does that work then?
Yeah, on this respect, maybe other aspects may be also taken into account, like providing a black box version of the model to interact in a core simulation environment, like those developed into CPS application. Also, that may be an option.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have more raised hands, but first I would like to pass the word to 𝗛𝗪𝗑, I guess.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks everybody for the really useful presentation, first of all. I wanted to ask you, we are a startup and we are under active development. We are developing a tool for model-based design. At the moment, we are not quite at 𝗛𝗨𝗟𝗟, but we plan to get there by January. Do you think we can still apply?
So if I might take that one. I think really, since the criteria is 5 when you apply, I think is probably safest. However, this is call 1.2 and we go up to 1.5, I think, Katerina?
Yes, we will have more calls under the call pool. So we will, next one will be call 1.3 and we'll start next year. So if by then you already have the 𝗛𝗨𝗟𝗟, you can apply.
Okay, that sounds good. It's probably gonna be better to wait until we are at that point then.
Yeah, I think, Katerina, can they already start an application and then submit to the next call, or does it make sense just to?
No, because then we need to have the application form ready for the call 1.3, and for that we need to close first call 1.2 and create evaluation, selection, and so on. So only next year, but we will.
I mean, is there a limit of resubmissions?
No.
No.
You can resubmit, as it was explained before, taking into consideration that if it is a resubmission, so you need to clarify the improvements you have made to the previous one, based on of course, always taking into consideration the evaluator's comments.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let me see who's next. See if I have more raised hands. So Miro, 𝗛𝗪𝗑. Haddad, I think I pronounced it correctly. Go ahead. You are muted still, so if you would like to pose the question, you can unmute yourself. Exactly.
It's me or Miro who have to talk with it firstly?
No, Miro already posed the question, so it's you.
Oh, okay.
So.
I am Elmi Haddad. I am an engineer in society. I have a name AGM that provide more solution for aquaculture and water quality sensors, and have a solution that provide many examples. And I have seen many assets in your sites, and how I can see which available asset in that, how I can see which examples in these assets, how can provide which tools, and that's it, to understand more the how I can provide my solution.
So do you want to start this one, Ken, or?
Yeah, I was going to say we do have a technology listing page. I'm just trying to remember if we made it public in the sense that it's on the
in HUBCAP.eu, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hi everyone. This is Christian from Newcastle, and I'm pretty much in charge of the website and all of that. So yesterday I did make the technologies page available on the website, so you can find it under platform, and then there's general information and available assets.
Right.
So if you do wish to take a look at the technologies listed, you can find them all there.
Yeah, I'm dropping the link in the chat. And
I can give a better link, Hugo. So there we go.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
So there's a direct link. So
yeah, okay.
These were the assets that were selected in call 1. There are a few, because a part of the DIH remit that we are is also to provide assets that we have in terms of models and mainly things that are open source, have been developed in other projects. Some of those are in there as well, but the ones that were selected in the call have a nice yellow SME asset logo, so you can see which ones. So, and this is the first step we do after your selection. We'll give you a form to fill in. So here we can see things like platforms, what kind of modeling is used, any applicable domains, what kind of license, and how to get contact, plus a description and a logo. So this probably makes sense for both people in the pull calls 1.2 and later on, because they can see what was already selected. And then when our call 2.1 opens for experiments, also be useful to know which SMEs you can join up with to make a proposal.
Okay, so I have more questions in the chat. Let me check. Okay, so a question from Bjark. You can pose the question, Bjark, if you want. You just need to unmute yourself. But can an SME seek call 1.2 and 2.1 or 3.1 independent? Or do you need to seek 1.2 to be in the game for 2.1, like a stage gate thing? So the answer is that you can apply to both separately. So if you have an asset technology, a model-based design tool to be integrated in the platform, you can apply to 1.2 call, which is currently receiving applications. And then your asset will be available on the HUBCAP platform to be selected by another SME, an end user, and then to form a consortium and together apply for call 2.1. But you can directly apply to call 2.1. You just need to go to the HUBCAP platform, select another SME that it's in your interest, or already have a consortium in mind and apply. For call Innovate, we will only have one call. So it will be call 3 in this case, not necessarily 3.1. And here we are accepting consortiums of at least 2 SMEs. So it can be up to 2 SMEs. And it's again the same methodology. So I don't know if this answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. So following, okay. So I guess I have no more questions in the chat. Just let me check if I have more raised hands. Okay, so far no. So does anyone else have a question? If not, we can conclude the webinar. Again, thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped clarifying some aspects about the HUBCAP program. And of course, we are keen to see you applying and participating and be accepted to our HUBCAP program.
We certainly are.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
So
Thanks,
bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, thank you all for coming. Bye.
Yeah, bye guys, bye.
Bye.